Yes. Good afternoon and welcome back to the Football Terrace. Thank you very much, as ever, for tuning in. Do me a really big favor. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the retweet button as well. Really important that you get that done for us. Before you go any further, just stop, collate yourself, sit down with that brew. You're gonna enjoy the content. You're gonna enjoy the calls that we have for you today. But hit the like button right now. So important to us. Everybody always forgets to get it done. Let's do that. If you do have social media, Facebook, Twitter, share it now. Take you a minute or so, but get it done. Then come back to the content. We'll wait for you. We'll be here. There's no problem. But a big thank you to everyone that's done that. We're here to talk Paul Pogba. There's been a lot of conversations about him wanting to remain as a Manchester United player. Of course, his comments last week about dreaming to play for Real Madrid, or a comment of that nature, has done nothing to dampen the rumors that he may be leaving. There is further reports today. This comes direct from Sport Witness, that Manchester United are not only prepared to sell Paul Pogba at the end of this season. Of course, they will extend his contract for a year and look to sell him and raise money. But reportedly, they have the next sort of French wonder kid lined up as his replacement. I'm going to try and pronounce the name right. It's the midfielder from Rennes. I think his name is pronounced Eduardo Camavinga. I think is how you pronounce it, or Camavinga, along those lines. He's 17 years of age. He turns 18 next month in November. And reportedly, Manchester United are looking to make him the next in a long conveyor belt of wonder kids that we have been out there and purchasing in recent times. Of course, he'll be 18, so he won't come in under the youth umbrella. Has a French passport, so we won't have issues with him, as United have seen with Aman Traore that's come into the football club. Supposedly looking at him as a replacement. That seems more like a medium to longer term replacement to me. So maybe, just maybe, the notion of Donny van der Beek not being a needed or required signing is starting to look like a really silly comment from a lot of the mainstream media outlets. But as ever, I want your views and opinions. What do you make of this story today from Sports Witness, plus multiple other outlets as well across Europe, that Man United are looking to sell Paul Pogba? This young lad, Eduardo Camavinga, is the individual they want to come in and replace him. I want your views. I want your opinions. The Skype lines are open, so give us a call. Let us know right now. Would you sell Paul Pogba and replace him with this kid, or would there be somebody else you bring him in for? Is selling Paul Pogba and cashing in on him the right thing to do? I want to hear from you right now. Before you give us your calls, make sure you're smashing the like button. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get this past 1,000 likes, please. First up on the show here, we have Winston Bradley. Winston Bradley, Paul Pogba, reportedly going to be sold by Manchester United next summer. They're not going to enter conversations to renew his contract. What's your opinion on this, mate?
I don't think they will, to be honest. I think Ollie's trying to build something, and you wouldn't want to sell some of your older elite players and continuously replace them with younger players. I mean, look how many players under 23 we have already. So you're going to need someone experienced, older, not Phil Jonesy, to guide them. And yeah, so I don't think they will. I think, and this whole Camavinga thing, I don't really believe it, because he's an up-and-coming young player. Like, there are other better options. I know as United fans, we want to think we're the best. I think he has other better options there, and he's still got time in his hands. So I won't read too much into that. I don't think we'll sell him.
I don't understand. I understand where you're coming from. You don't think so? You think Pogba's here? So what happens then? Do you think he'll sign a new deal with Manchester United? Because if Pogba refuses to sign a new deal, they will sell him. They will not let him leave in 2 years' time for free. They're never going to let that happen. So do you think he'll sign? He'll sign a new deal with Man United?
I think he will, because he's always flopping and changing his decisions. I mean, he always comes out and says he wants to leave whenever the team is doing bad. And we all know United has its downturns and upturns. I think the team will improve and his decision will change as well. If he was offered a contract towards the end of last season, he would have taken it because the team was doing well. Everything was okay. But if you were to offer it to him now, on the back of that 6-1, I don't think he would accept it. So
there we go. Listen, I appreciate your opinions on that, Winston. Thank you very much for calling the show. Do you agree with Winston? Man United will keep Paul Pogba. Next up, we've got man like Mac back on the show. Mac, what's your thoughts about this Pogba situation? Do you think Man United will or should cash in on him?
Probably should, man. Probably should just get him to sign a new deal and probably just cash in. You know, it was funny when I was watching the street. Was it last night? And you done the whole thing about what he was basically saying, what he basically meant, and you turn around and done the whole like.
Twerking for Real Madrid. He absolutely was. It was just bending over, lifting his skirt up, saying, "Come take me, Madrid. I'm here waiting." 110%. That's what he's doing.
You might as well, man. You know why as well? Because it's like he's such a divisive character within the fan base. It's just like, boy, you might as well, man. You might as well. I don't know if Camavinga is ready to be a direct replacement, although he is performing very, very, very well in the French league. Last season, he was very good, and he seemed like he started off the way he left off last season, this season. So he's a very, very, very good player. But a direct replacement, I'm not so sure. But I think, yeah, man, might as well. I think it's probably a high time we cash in on him. And I'm a big Pogba fan, massive, massive, massive Pogba fan. But when I look at it in the cold light of day, we've sold him a dream, and you know what I mean.
No, but I agree with you on that. I don't. I've said it so many times. I don't disagree with Pogba wanting to leave Manchester United. That in itself doesn't bother me in the slightest. It's about us doing the best possible business in the face of that. And listen, I think Eduardo Camavinga, very talented young player. I'm already seeing in the comments, no, he's getting Real Madrid. Do you know what I love about those kind of comments? You know, football fans are so cocksure about where a player is or isn't going to end up going. And of course, we all get things wrong. We all get things right. I remember doing videos. Again, everyone was right. Sancho didn't come. Cool. You can say, see, told you, I'm a genius. But I also remember every single rival fan of Man United saying that there's no way we're getting Donny van der Beek. He's getting Real Madrid. You just never quite know. I mean, I've been reading some stuff today about Adnan Traore, and Man United have been negotiating to sign him for over a year. And there are multiple other clubs, including Barcelona, that have been chasing and tracking him at exactly the same time. So this kind of notion, Palestri's another one where I think Bayern Munich were looking at him, Barcelona were looking at him, and Paris Saint-Germain made like genuine contracts. I mean, they all tried to sign him. And this is the thing with football fans. And, you know, all these players are attainable by top Premier League clubs. Every single one of these sort of wonder kids around Europe, South America, Premier League clubs can sign. Look, Arsenal signed Martinelli. I guarantee when you look into it, if you wanted to, some other big European powerhouses came in for him. And it's the kind of notion that we can't sign Eduardo Camavinga just make me laugh. That isn't and equally, that isn't even the part of the debate that's that important. It's whether or not you think Pogba should or shouldn't be sold. And I'm a bit like you. I think for multiple reasons, I think I would extend his deal now, just trigger it, and then look to sell him for as much money as possible in the summer. Pogba's not dedicated.
Get over and done with, man.
Pogba's not dedicated to the club. We know that by the way he flirts every time there's bad stuff going on. He divides the fan base. Not that that's his fault, but he does. Get the money in for him. Hopefully be able to reinvest that money. And it just kind of it draws a line under that era and under that situation. And hopefully then, you know, all the people that blame Paul Pogba for our bad results, if things continue to be bad, at least then they'll know. At least we can say, look, we told you it was nothing directly to do with Paul Pogba. And it isn't, by the way. It's not a manager. It isn't an individual player.
You know what? It's very, it's one of the situations where I don't want to see him go, but I also do because he gets so much flack for every single little thing. I mean, that game against Tottenham, I know like he didn't have the best defensive performance in the world. But first and foremost, he's not a defensive player. I think people need to stop thinking that he is just because of the size of the guy. He's not a defensive player. Second of all, there was a calamity of errors from multiple other players we had on that pitch, and I've just seen him getting so much pelters. Not just him, Harry Maguire as well. But I've seen Pogba getting so much blame, for that game against Tottenham. I just think to myself, you know what? This guy, maybe for his own insanity, he just needs to just find somewhere else to go. The only thing is, though, I just saw someone in the comments talking about Real Madrid and if they got enough money to actually even sign him, because it would be a big money signing. So I don't know where they stand financially, because look at this season, they didn't make any signings, did they? So
Yeah, well, I think that's part and parcel. I think a lot of the clubs and a lot of clubs didn't make gigantic signings this summer. I think there is almost an element of trying to reserve the spending until next year, because nobody quite knows how or where the land's going to lie by then. I would assume it's going to be okay, but then it all becomes relative. If money continues to drop outside of football, yes, players will be sold for less money, but equally you'll be buying players for less money. And I think that's an element of the Sancho situation, where the Glazers are like, we don't think 120 million euros after the pandemic is good business. Dortmund didn't want to fold. It's next summer becomes interesting, because if Dortmund end up getting less money for him next summer, because everybody still believes that those prices are inflated because football doesn't recover financially. I think what helped Dortmund this year is that information that none of us knew about, that the summer before Sancho had extended his contract. If he had 2 years left rather than 3 years left on his contract, it would have changed things significantly. So I think with Paul Pogba, we'll end up being forced into a situation next year where he'll be into a last year of his contract because we'll extend it. And it's a case of we either take what people are giving us, and it will be less than the sort of 120 millions we wanted 2 years ago. But equally, by then, you'll be able to replace for cheaper. So it becomes relative. Do you get what I mean? If you could have sold Pogba for 100 million a year ago, but his replacement will cost you 80. If you sell him for 80 and your replacement comes in at 60, it's the same difference. So I'm not too concerned by that. I just feel like you. I think Pogba moving on now for everybody involved could end up being the best thing for him. We're going to add Ram to the call now. Liverpool fan Ram is with us. Ram, do you think Manchester United would be right to sell Paul Pogba or not? What's your opinion, mate?
It depends on whether his heart is at United. If his heart is not at United, then I think he should cash in. If it is, then I think you should keep him.
Give us your opinion. Do you think his heart is at Man United?
Personally, for me, I don't think it is. Like, I feel with Paul Pogba, with the situation that Manchester United are in, with them going back to this barren run, I think he's like, yeah, I just want to get out of here now.
Can I ask you a question as a Liverpool fan? Whose fault do you think that is?
What in terms of the players, or what aspect?
No, just in general, that his heart is not in it anymore. Who would you put the blame on that? Would you put it on himself, or would you put it on the club? I'm just interested to know, as like a rival fan.
For me, it has to be a mixture. I know I'm going to be sitting on the fence with this one, but it's a mixture of things. I mean, your club isn't run properly. Like, if you compare it to the likes of like Chelsea or Liverpool, the way we get transfers done, and the way how your board of you don't have a director of football still is very worrying. I think like on the field, we all know that Ollie's not good enough. I know why Man United fans want him to stay there, just to rejuvenate that culture, but it is very hard for him to do it when a board is very, very reluctant.
Because you know how I look at it, Terry. I look at it like when Paul Pogba came in, he was in the FIFA Pro Team of the Year or whatever. He was flying with Juventus. He was at the top of his game. Real Madrid, Barcelona were in for him, top clubs. I think Bayern Munich even as well. He could have the pick of the bunch. He was in the Europa League at the time, right? And things were looking very, very bad for us. I mean, you know, we had just sacked Van Gaal. We've got a Mourinho, fair enough. But, you know, Mourinho's stock was kind of depleting at the time anyway. But he came back to us just on the... I remember one quote specifically. He said that I had taken my driving lessons in Manchester. Like, this is where I feel like I'm from. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was very, very much connected to the club, the area, everything.
I hear that. I hear this completely. And I think for me, I do feel like the club's let him down. My view is the club has, because we abandoned the project that he joined. So whatever that was, and I don't know the fine details of what the project looked like internally, but we abandoned it. We went to Ollie. Ollie spent a long time kind of repairing things, but already the club are abandoning what Ollie wants to do. So of course he's going to feel disheartened. And do you know why he'll feel disheartened? Some might have the train of thought right now. Maybe Woodward's thinking it. Oh, you know what? Pogba's such a big name. Maybe if we go and get Poch, maybe if we go and get Julian Nagelsmann, right? maybe if we do this, Nosek, you're not banned from Skype. I just haven't answered your call and added you to it yet, mate. You're not banned at all. If you're banned, it wouldn't ring. Thank you for the super chat, though. So my kind of view is, like, I want to say this in the right way. Even if Woodward goes and gets Nangelsmann or Poch now and is like, right, Paul, please resign. Look, we've gone and got this manager. They're going to play a more expansive, more attractive style. Paul Pogba is in the same
promises.
Exactly. And Pogba is in the same mindset as people like me and Nietzsche and yourselves. They're not even worried about who the manager is. It's the fact that you know that the club isn't going to stick to that plan. And in 18 months to 2 years, they're going to pull the rug from underneath that manager's feet. And I think so often we focus on, are the players going to throw the manager under the bus?
Have you noticed, Terry?
Right.
I don't want to sound
bored. Go on, mate.
I don't want to sound like an ageist or anything like that, but have you noticed that it's more of the younger fans that want this type of like short-term success? I was listening to your conversation with Culture Cam the other day, and he said something very key to me, and I noticed, and I thought to myself, you know what? That's probably why he's thinking along the lines of the way he is. He said he has to go and research information just recently about everything the Glazers have done and haven't done while they've been in charge of this club. And I thought to myself, if you had to research that just recently, you probably haven't spent a lot of your adult life supporting Manchester United. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Well,
because we've lived through this for so long now, where it's a thing where we're jaded.
Mac, you sound about the same sort of age as me, bruv. Like early mid-30s. Maybe I'm being disrespectful. I think you sound a similar age to me, right? What I find interesting is, I don't know how old Culture Cam is. I'm gonna guess he's like 25, maybe younger. When the Glazers took over 15 years ago, he was 10 years old. When you're 10 years old, 12 years old, 14, 15, 16, 17, even 18, I don't really think you think about these things in a way. I was 21, ish. I was about 19, 20, and I moved to Manchester. I was living in Manchester when it all happened. I remember I was working at Phones for You, and one of the reasons I got the job is I was getting interviewed, and the guy was like, "What football team do you support?" And I said, "Actually, I'm a Man United fan." And they were like, "So are we." He goes, I only employ Man United fans. It was like, great, cool. They gave me this job, and I'd only been there a week or so. And I remember said, remember Saturdays, the FA Cup final, we were playing Arsenal where we lost on penalties, and they said everyone's wearing a black suit and shirt, and I was like, why? And they gave me this dirty look. And I'm like, what? And they said, well, we're doing it because we're not happy with the Glazer takeover. And it's to mark like it's a funeral type thing. And I just went along with it, right? That triggered me into doing more research and understanding more about the football club. So imagine you're like 10, 11 years old when this happened. There's no way you're looking into the Glazer ownership in any way, shape, or form. And then maybe you don't start to take notice until well after Fergie's retired. So it feels a little. I'm not putting Culture Cam into this space. I'm just saying, it's like I'll give you an example. It's like Arsenal fans that are 25 years old and younger. They only remember failure. And like Chelsea fans that are 25 years old, 26 years old and younger, they only remember being a really good team. And Man United fans of a certain age and vintage, they only really remember the Glazers. And they'll be like, well, no, we won league titles and we won Champions League with the Glazers. They can't be as bad as people are making out. But also what's happened with that generation is they're from the generation of instant gratification. They're from the generation of, when I want an album, I can download it instantly. Unlike me and you, bruv. Like, we're from the same area as well. We had to like jump on a bus, go down to either Stratford or Walthamstow on a Saturday. Go to Woolworths and buy a CD. So we couldn't wait. We had to wait all week. And sometimes you wait in 2 weeks because mum and dad didn't have any money. So you had to wait until they had some. That's life.
Some people don't even know what Woolworths is.
Exactly, bro. Some don't. And I think there's a generational thing here. And listen, there's almost nothing at the weekend that Culture Cam said that I disagree with on the face of it. I just think the problem is a layer or two deeper than what's being kind of presented.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is, it's all well and good now. Like, okay, we talk about Poch, we talk about Nagelsmann, but what happens when it comes to a day where we cannot attract these big name managers, and then all of a sudden we're going for the Sam Allardyces and the Steve Bruces of this world because we can't get those top managers anymore because they're looking at it saying to yourself, well, you know what? Sod that for a laugh. I'd rather go elsewhere. Because don't forget, Poch has also been linked to Manchester City. Right, so if you look at the two clubs and how they're run, who are you going to go with, really?
Bruv,
you take yourself out of the Man United, you take your Man United hat off.
Right with this, and, mate. I couldn't agree with you more on that. You know, it's kind of Culture Cam said something, and I've been thinking about it deeply because he's right. It's like, well, if Ollie was doing such a good job, Why after a couple of defeats would the board be looking to sack him? And I thought it's a really good point. So I thought about it. And it even means that Culture Cam is right and they've never been convinced by him. And if they're convinced by him, why the hell have they just gone and dropped all this money again this summer on players as an example? And why keep him anyway if you're not convinced by him? Or they don't really know what they're convinced by or not. It's almost they're on this wishy-washy kind of approach where they go with the consensus. If the majority of fans love him, they stick with him. When fans majority turn against him, they change their mind. That is never going to create a conducive environment for a Paul Pogba to be successful in. And the irony with how bad Woodward and co run this football club is a lot of the favourite players, the players in sort of the early out brigade favour, have been more impacted by this incohesive way we're run than anybody else. So for me, like getting your house in order first is so important. You know, it's almost like we're trying to fix. I always like this sort of mantra. Before you try and fix global problems, before you try and fix problems that are going on around the world, get your own house in order. Make sure you and your family are in a good position first. That's my mantra in life. And I feel like a lot of United fans, they want us to put the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake, but we haven't even mixed the cake. There's no cake mix yet. We haven't even baked it yet, let alone putting the cherry on top. And having the right manager and everything like that feels like the final piece of the jigsaw for Man United to like gel it all together. You need all the infrastructure first.
They want this year's BMW, but live in a council estate. That's what they want.
Mate, some people do that. We added Daniel to the call. Daniel's with us. What do you want to say, mate?
I think we will sell Pogba, purely because I just don't think he leaves enough on the field. He doesn't come off giving his all. He's very marketable, which probably is good for the club, but ultimately he's not what we need.
Do you think we can find better? Is there a particular player out there that you would like to see come in and replace Paul Pogba, like personally?
It's too hard, isn't it? Because basically anyone we sign doesn't look good at the moment. Other than Bruno. I mean, Bruno dragged us after January. He definitely dragged us towards the summer. But Pogba hasn't got that in him. He's talented, but he can't drag the team through results, whether it's penalties or goals himself. But he got us to where we were last year, but Pogba cannot do that. He's talented. He's put out good numbers, to be fair, pretty similar to what he did in Juventus, if you look at the stats of his last season. But it's just, he can't do it, I don't think. I feel sorry for him, to be honest.
Do you think it's down to the players that he has around him? Because if you look at that Juventus team, he has so many workhorses in Marquisio, Vidal. I won't say Pirlo as a workhorse, but he's still a very, very, very good midfielder.
That is a massive difference. He had world-class players around him, but I just want to see more. I want to see him come off that pitch looking like he's exhausted. I don't see it. And I think he's also a bit too big to drop. I'd like to see Van der Beek start, maybe.
Listen, I think you've got a fair point. A lot of people won't like what you've said about Paul Pogba. What I find very interesting about, I love Paul Pogba, but I'm not in this Pogba FC club. I don't like anyone that supports a player over a club. Do you know what they always do? Whenever someone says what you've said, they start throwing stats at you. Do you know the irony? Do you know the irony with that? There's nothing wrong with stats. They're absolutely fine to use. What I love about it, when I pull out stats from Maguire, they say stats can be manipulated. I honestly, so it's like I watched the stream the other day, and they were defending Paul Pogba with when he scored these goals, when he scored them, or when he was their highest scoring player one season. I'm like, but you same people, the literal same person, slags off Bruno because a lot of Bruno's goals are penalties and a lot of his assists come from corners, and I'm like, can you not see the irony in that? Or is that just me? Maybe I'm the crazy guy here. Like, I think Pogba's an excellent player, but Pogba isn't the kind of player that drags you through games. He isn't a Steven Gerrard-esque type player. He is more. I don't like saying luxury player makes it sound like he's not needed. You do need luxury players, and he will still produce in games, generally speaking, brilliant moments where if you finish them, they get remembered. And what I mean by that is we could be playing awfully, but then he can play an absolute worldie of a ball that sets up an opportunity. The problem that we have is players like him get focused on so much if everything else is falling apart around them, as an example. So if you threw Kevin De Bruyne into the Man United team, we'd still have all the other same problems. Kevin De Bruyne wouldn't make Man United a significantly better football team because he's got the creative edge, which is great. but everything around him is crumbling. We haven't got the structure. We've got poor left backs. We've got
You've
a poor
you've
centre.
actually seen it with Donny van der Beek and Fernandes when they come on. The amount they're shouting at players to move. I kind of feel feel sorry for the defense because no one's moving in front of them to actually make space.
Exactly, and I think that that Pogba gets impacted by that because we want him to be brilliant at things that are just not in his. That
He's
are
not
not
that
part of
type
his
of player.
game, and I think that's really disrespectful to Paul Pogba. But he's put into that position because of everything else that's going on at the club, which is one of the reasons why I want to see him leave. Because it removes a scapegoat. It also gets rid of a scapegoat, so we can start to look at the bigger problem where we don't have good enough players,
Like,
and everything else. Yeah,
Terry, if you, I don't like, we don't like doing this, but if you'd put Pogba into that Real Madrid midfield, he would do so much better, in my opinion.
Oh, mate, you put him into that Real Madrid midfield.
Like Kroos, Casemiro, Modric, and Pogba. That's just
because you know what it's
disgusting
it's like. It's the same thing with Ozil. Yeah, Ozil had the most assists for 2 seasons running in Europe, right? I think him and Messi were neck and neck, right? He goes to Arsenal and suddenly he's now a turd. Like,
well, even when he first went to Arsenal, though, look when he first went to Arsenal. Arsenal, they weren't title contending quality at that point, but they were still one of the best teams in England when he first went there. And his assist levels maintained. As Arsenal, the football club, regressed, so did the performances of Mesut Ozil, because he didn't have the quality around him to make it come off. Like if Paul Pogba played for Leyton Orient, he'd create probably 10 times as many chances. No, he would, because he'd be playing against lesser midfilders. But it doesn't necessarily equate to he'll get more assists because he's passing to lesser quality individuals. So people wouldn't make the right. I remember once watching a game with my dad when I was younger, and I don't remember who the player was, but I remember he kept on playing passes into like where nobody was there, and I'm moaning at him. And my dad's like, "Are you an idiot, son?" I'm like, "No." He said, "Are you stupid?" I went, "No. You know, the player passing the ball isn't making the mistake." He said, "Only people with no football brain think that." Well, I looked at my dad like, "Well, he's really digging me out." I was like 8 years old. What are you saying? He went, "The creative player is passing the balls into spaces where his teammates should be running and going into. The fact that they don't have the intelligence or vision to see it isn't the passer's fault, it's their fault." And it opened my eyes to things where I'm like, when I see sometimes Paul Pogba's passes are awful, but that's because all players have it. Sometimes I see him dink a ball and there's no one there, and you can hear the groan of the crowd, and I'm like, it's because the fullback should have run into that position 20 seconds ago, and Pogba knows where he should be.
Sometimes
exactly,
he's on the ball for a couple more seconds than he should be. That's because, like, sometimes I think to myself, is no one going to like make the run? Is no one just going to run?
This is the problem with football, and you see it with Bruno Fernandes because United are not being successful. If you watch Kevin De Bruyne in a game, there'll be 3 or 4 passes he pulls off where you'll just go, "Wow." There's also loads where he goes for it, and you're like, "Why did you make that part? Why didn't you just play the simple one next to you?" Because you lost the ball. That's because high percentage players. Bruno does it. This is where Man United fans do it with Bruno. Bruno plays a pass and it doesn't come off, and they're like, "Oh, why did you try that pass?" Yeah, because if it did come off, you're in on goal. We have too many players at Man United who always go for the safe option. I saw England do it yesterday a few times in the first half against Belgium, where there were like more difficult passes to play out to wide positions, and we bottled them. And we went for nice simplistic passes on the inside, and it made it very easy for Belgium to stay structured against us because none of our passes were breaking the lines. When you try and break the lines, a higher percentage of those balls don't make their targets. Statistically and factually, from the history of football, that's always happened. Since the beginning of football till now, that's always happened. And the other element is sometimes the creative players are going to see where a run should be and they're going to pass the ball into that position. But sometimes they're more creative and they have better vision than the person making the run. But we always blame the passer. It's like, no, he shouldn't have been there. And that's why occasionally you get geniuses do the punditry. You get a Wenger or you get a Jose do it, and they start to explain football on such a different level to what we're used to hearing from Jamie Redknapp's and everybody. That's why I like listening to Alex Scott, because she breaks it down to such granular detail. You're like, oh, wow, that makes sense. That makes sense why you would think that. We've got a super chat here from Nosak, who says, you have to know what you buy. If you buy a Lamborghini, in brackets Pogba, you can't expect him to tow a car or drive a car through mud. Try Sancho at wing back and see. Absolutely right. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, if you live in the countryside, don't buy a Ferrari or Lamborghini if money's no object. Right. You've got to buy something that's got a 4-wheel drive, bruv. Otherwise, you're getting stuck in that mud. It's horses for courses. It is what it comes down to. And Man United, and the biggest reason this has happened is because we keep changing managers and direction every 18 months to 2 years. And you'll never, ever, in that instance, create an environment where you have a balanced squad. Look what we've just done with our fullbacks. And as excited as I am to see Tellus, we now have a marauding attacking fullback who doesn't like to defend. And we have a very defensive-minded fullback who doesn't really like going forward. How is that good planning?
Doesn't make sense.
It don't make sense.
And the thing about it is that we don't have any width on the pitch. So really and truly, you want two fullbacks that's going to go forward and then get crosses in to like create the width. And then if you want to have it inside forwards tucking in pretty much like Liverpool play, then fair enough. But we don't have that width. That's why we needed Sancho. So we're going after Sancho this season. But you can just see that the planning and we need a director of football desperately, because the director of football is there to work with the coaching team so they can communicate with each other and be like, look, this is how we want to play football, and these are the players that we're going to need to be able to do it. All right, cool. I'm going to go and look for those types of players. We haven't brought someone like that in, and I just don't understand how people keep talking about Poch, but we're both at Southampton and Tottenham. We had Paul Mitchell. And Paul Mitchell, then he went to Leipzig. He's like a world-class director of football, one that we've been linked with so many times. For some reason, haven't pulled it off. It's just ridiculous. I saw Monchi. He's at Sevilla right now, and he was criticising Manchester United for not having a director of football. We're becoming like we are the New York Yankees, right? We are big just on name alone, but in terms of success, yeah, because if I asked you like, oh, who's the biggest baseball team out there? A lot of people will say, oh, yeah, New York Yankees, because you just know them based on the reputation.
Yeah.
Guys ain't won a World Series in like how long? You know what I'm trying to say? That's what we are.
Yeah, and we're definitely becoming that, mate. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And I think fans that keep focusing purely on the management, they'll come a cropper. They'll eventually wake up and smell the coffee. And it just takes time. I was in that space for a couple of years ago, and like I said, if we announced Nagelsmann today, there'll be a part of me that'll be over the moon, and then almost straight away there'll be this element of dread of, but we're going to damage him as well.
There we go.
And Terry, do you honestly think you can get Nagelsmann right now?
It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. I'm speaking hypothetically, mate. I'm not talking about the seriousness of it. I'm just saying it would fill me with dread. And what will happen? Oh, it's so obvious. He'd start off well, and you get the see Terry, told you. We even had everyone does that. I tested it. Test rung me up yesterday, and I apologized because he was right and said, Terry, see, I called up and said the Glazers will always hold us back. The Glazers are not going to spend money this year because they don't care once we get into the Champions League, and you shut me down. I was right. And you're absolutely right. You were. But do remember, the guy literally changed his mind about a week after that and said that actually he thought about it and the Glazers weren't that bad. It's all about Ollie wasting their money as opposed to the Glazers not actually investing. So it's
I heard that,
but the thing I would say about I get the feeling that he phones up more to try and prove me wrong than actually say what he thinks and feels, which is fine.
Yeah, I think he's more interested with you.
I do think that. And I didn't bring it up yesterday because I wanted to apologize for getting something wrong, because that's something I said wouldn't happen. What I will say about eye test is I didn't really think about it yesterday, but it was only because I was chatting to a few other people about some clip videos we're putting out where they were like, you do realize that he actually turned around and admitted that the Glazers were okay a week or two after saying that they were the biggest problem. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know I went back and listened to it, but there we go.
Can I quickly say something? I mean, just for all United fans, like, if United don't sort out what's going on behind the scenes, then don't be surprised if you end up starting to fall down the pecking order and finish around about mid-table, because it does happen to teams. You saw it with Leeds United to an extent. They were a massive team, but internally there were so many problems. Liverpool had it for a time with their owners, with Hicks and Gillette, and you can see it right now. AC Milan, they used to be the big juggernaut of European football, and now they're just a mediocre side in Serie A. Like, it will happen unless you sort out what's going on within your football club.
100%. Because I always say it doesn't matter who we get. We can get Mauricio, Pochettino, Klopp, Guardiola, Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just you have to have a stable environment for players and management and staff to walk into. I mean, like, Fergie valued everyone at that club, from whoever it was at the top to the tea lady. Yeah, it has to all work in synergistically. And right now, I can't understand how people are saying, yeah, we can have this short-term success. The stadium's leaking, bro. What you think that?
Mate,
I mean, what?
innit?
So you think that we're gonna have short-term success,
That's it.
and they can't even bother to fix the stadium? Come on, bro.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you were getting a tour around work and they're telling you about, oh, we're winning all these contracts soon, we're on the up and up, we're doing this, we're doing that, and you see, like, what's that bucket on the floor for? Oh yeah, that catches the water when it rains. Oh, okay, cool. You know, the doors squeaking, there's no maintenance, there's no coffee in the coffee machine. Not that I drink coffee, but you know, I mean, that's how I feel United is. And I don't think it takes long. You know, Alexis Sanchez, whether people love him or hate him, was like, yeah, I was there like one training session and I knew I regretted it. And I just think that's the whole feeling, top to bottom. Before we come to yourself, mate, everyone who's tuning in, smash the like button right now. I know people forget to do it. Over 1,000 people tuning in live right now. Hit the like button, share this in your social media streams. We're going to go to member chat only for the remainder of this video. If you want to become a member from as little as 99p per month, you can click either join right now, you'll see it on your screen somewhere, or go to the link in our description below and sign up and do that. But we like to every now and then make out our live sections for the members only, so you guys can have your comments read out. Super chats also count as well. Dan, you were going to say something, mate?
Yeah, going back to what's come out in the last week or so of apparently Fernandez laying into the team and the manager, well, so-called anyway. I think we need more of that, in my opinion. People that are actually going to get in the players' faces, because there are a lot of pretenders at this club who are there for the paycheck, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree with you in terms of they need to challenge each other more. You know, I think we've created this environment, not just at Man United, but generally in society, where don't criticize people, don't shout at people, don't hold people to standards. You know, I worked for a company once. I left
builds character.
I left the company that I used to work for because they removed all targets. Nobody had a target. The company had a target, but no individual could have a target. No team could have a target. And I'm like, well, how do we achieve targets without targets? Because people will then there's no way of what are you managing people against? If there's no metrics, no measurable. Yeah. It was like, oh, we're going to measure people based on attitude. I'm like, how do you do that? Like there's nothing, because everything you try to write down, well, that's still, it's like there's nothing you could write down. So people are going to get away with hell. What happened after 2 or 3 years? The literal performances of individual business areas diminished by about 200%. That's the shrinkage was so big. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, it's because you wanted to create this sort of la-di-da land where nobody was going to be kind of punished or reprimanded or disciplined for not meeting a certain standard. And I feel like that's gone into sport. I heard some young player, I don't know his name, sorry, at Chelsea today moaning that Chelsea have ruined him by loaning him out so much. I'm like, no, bruv, you went out and didn't perform on loan. That's on you.
Yeah, that's build your
down
character.
To you. You know, at the end of the day, like with Paul Pogba, it is right that the club have damaged things in terms of environmentally that make it hard for anyone to become a success. But if Pogba chooses to stay, it's on him if his career gets ruined, because do you get where I'm coming from? Like there's over a short period of time, a manager, a company, somebody could damage you. But for you to stay in that rut forever, that's a personal choice. It's a legitimate personal choice at this level of it. I'm not talking, at this level, it's a personal choice. And until people get out of that, oh, I'm a victim, would ruin my career. Bruv, you're still only like 27. You've still got 7-8 years left. Leave, bruv. Leave and move yourself on.
How old is he right now? He's 27,
28 turning. Yeah, or maybe turning.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah. I just don't think we should hold him back anymore. Like, if he wants to go, like, we clearly see him as, like, he's very marketable as a player. He's very popular. I know he divides opinion amongst actual fans, but I think for himself, he's been flirting with the idea of leaving for the last couple of years anyway, with the stuff he says. And it weren't that long ago that he wanted to apparently sign a new contract, but obviously that's been put on hold for whatever reason.
And I hear that, bruv. And
it's a shame, man.
And it's equally, if this little bad run isn't just his bad run, I think it's his bad start to the season. The way they lied to us over the Sancho thing. What's mad about all the reports though is this: you read a report today where you start to feel encouraged about Amad Traore. The president of Atalanta says that negotiations between Man United and them went on for a year for us to sign that young lad. And you look at that and go, well, that's some amazing business, because this kid is well sought after, very well coveted, lots of articles about how brilliant he's going to be. We've been chasing him for a year. So I think, okay, but then, like, this is the worst bit with the club. We're so bad overall. It's like, I'm going to believe that because it's come from Atalanta, but it's like, if he's that good and he's going to be that amazing and he's already 18 years old, why are we also looking at spending 120 million on Jadon Sancho? Because this kid's predicted to go on to be better. Now, I understand Jadon Sancho is delivering right now. I totally understand that. But with Rashford and Martial and Greenwood already here, and us trying to sign Jadon Sancho, us signing Pellistri, and then at this lad, and I'm going to be very, 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 very consistent here. I didn't understand Chelsea fans thinking they were going to keep all their academy players with the volume they signed this summer. Do you get what I mean? So I have to have the same. I have to have the same energy and go, how can we have Rashford, Greenwood, Martial, sign Pellistri, sign Sancho because we were trying to.
You know why, Terry?
And then it just feels, and then get a man. It doesn't make sense to me. It's weird planning.
Do you know why? Because not only is Sancho a good player, but he's also a commercial commodity. And that's what Manchester United as a football club are more interested in right now. Because you're right. I mean, he's only 18. Sancho's, 20? If you're looking at it well, why can't you just put him straight into the first team if he's that good? And then, let him see what he could do. We are more interested in the commerciality of players than we are actually talent. And that's the sad thing about the club right now.
I think I would rather see
agree.
us sign more players along them lines than go for like the 100 million. I mean, Sancho's essentially established now as a player. Why are we paying 100 million? Go and find the next Sancho. Don't.
Well, and that's why the Traore deal makes sense to me. Now, if we have been working on it a year and it took this amount of time, I still feel like, though, we're working on it for a year. I only think we went back in for him because of the Sancho situation.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's how it feels. And that isn't the end of the world for me. But the problem is I don't have any faith in the club. Why do I expect the players to have faith in what the club's doing when everything is so wishy-washy? I've got a few member comments here. Thank you, by the way, to Zoobs for upgrading your membership. Thank you to Billy T for becoming an Academy member. Thank you to Nusak as well for becoming an Academy member. You can sign up right now by clicking that join button. Billy here says, I'm a Chelsea fan. Man United fans need to stop blaming the manager. This goes to the core of the club. Billy, you're absolutely right. Let's go to some more comments here. Billy T says, Pogba is a very talented player, but has a weak mentality. At Juventus, he was always winning, so performed well. At Man United, when we are losing, he goes missing in games. I actually think that's a fair bit of criticism. Paul Pogba doesn't tend to perform well when things are going against us. The one example that smacks in the face of that comment would be that brilliant comeback against Man City, but that was once.
It's one-off, isn't it? Yeah. It's not consistent enough.
No, I agree. Problem. I agree with that completely. I really, really do. The Believing Guna says only big clubs here. I don't think Spurs are part of that. Well, Spurs are part of the Football Terrace. We don't have very many of their fans that are with us, though, which is always a shame. which is always a shame in relation to that. Terry, we need a City badge in the chat. We'll add a City. I've got one emoji left. We're actually looking for City and Everton fans to do the previews this week for the big games that are coming up. We'll see if we can get them in. Daniel here, the Chelsea fan, says, because when our team is fully fit, we will gel quickly. I bet you guys hope so. Brody here says, if we get Sancho in January or the summer, then you are right, Terry. It doesn't make sense. Listen, signing Sancho makes sense because he's a top quality player, but there's only so many top quality young players you can have in your team at any one time. You can have too many old players. You can have too many slow players. You can have too many fast players. You can have too many. You can actually have too many ballers. Sometimes you just need people that are a little bit more cut and thrust. It's called balance. It's called. Yeah. I'm not saying when I say not too many ballers, everyone has to have a good level of footballing ability. But if you look at the City team, there's still a difference between a Fernandinho and a Kevin De Bruyne. So if anyone, there's a difference between Kevin De Bruyne and a Raheem Sterling.
You need some industrial players sometimes.
You do.
You need a James Milner.
Right. Yeah. You do. There's no doubt about that at all. Smash that like button, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone else wants to phone the show, we're going to stay live for a few more moments on this. But yeah, as I say, I just feel with this whole situation, it's about the board fixing up. Pogba leaving. Do I think it's going to fix Man United? No. I can't imagine.
I think it will help in the long run if he leaves sooner rather than later.
Maybe it will. I get that. We've added Z to the call. Z, what you saying?
I'm good, mate. Honestly, I'm hearing what you lot are saying about Pogba. I think Pogba should go. I think Pogba should go.
Why? Why do you want him to leave, mate?
I'll be honest with you, mate. He's a fan favorite. Everyone loves him and everything, and the character he brings to the club. But let's be honest, he's like, I'm someone who stood by Pogba for a very long time, but he's been very toxic. And had Pogba been in the old changing room, he would not be allowed to come out and say some of the stuff that he's come out and saying. You can't say, "Oh, I love United. It's a dream to play for Real Madrid, but I still love United." That's like telling your missus, "Oh, you know what? I love you, but I also want to shag the lady down the road."
Mate, you hit the nail on the head, bro. And that's why, like he's the people defend Pogba no matter what he does. It's like, how you say it's fine for him to want to leave, but it's, as you say, it's saying these things publicly. It's like going on Facebook and saying that. If you think it cool, right? But leave your missus and then go down the road. Don't put it out on Facebook that you want to do it. I agree.
Do you know the thing is about it? We've had this before. We've had Roy Keane get on MUTV and after that Middlesbrough game talk about how the players are not good enough. We've had Wayne Rooney in 2010 talk about the ambitions of the club are lowering. And, when you look at it, they've both been right. They've maybe not been right to have come out and said things, but they've both been right in what they were saying. And sometimes it just takes certain characters have what it takes to step up and say, because to me, I feel like Pogba doesn't really necessarily need to flirt. He doesn't need to flirt with Real Madrid or any other club for that matter. The clubs could see what's going on at Manchester United. Yeah. And if they want Pogba and they could put up enough money to get him, that will happen. He doesn't need to flirt with anyone. But sometimes I think to myself, I don't know if I'm thinking a bit too far ahead here. I think to myself, is he doing this to incite some type of change? Or is he actually doing this to actually incite some type of move? Because like I just said, he doesn't really need to do this to get a move. He'll get a move regardless. So why is he doing this?
He's literally just trying to get the move. And let's be honest, because he's a fan favourite, everyone gives him excuses. His performances have been below par for a long time. Everyone says, "Oh, because of the system." Let's be honest, right? Regardless of everything, I saw Coutinho for Liverpool when Liverpool weren't that great. And they never had the same system that they have now. And he still performed. I saw Hazard do it for Chelsea. Why has Pogba not been able to do it? We make so many excuses for the guy, and the guy just spits on the badge every single time that he has the opportunity.
But when you say that, because you're talking about two different types of player here. So when you say that, what exactly do you want to see him do? Because Pogba is in their team to create for players. So when you're looking at Coutinho, yeah, you'll see Coutinho bang a long shot from 20, 30 yards, and that will like skew your vision of him compared to a Paul Pogba or a Hazard who'll dribble past 5 players and then put it in the bottom corner. So what exactly do you want Paul Pogba to do?
I want Pogba to be what they've said Pogba was going to be. Do you get what I mean? I think that we as United fans and as football fans, we always make up excuses for Pogba. And let's be honest, when was the last time we actually saw Pogba below your mind in the way? Like, where did he play?
I understand what you're saying, but forget what they say, in terms of what you think, because what they say is what they say. Everyone has their opinions, because when he first came in, it was all about, he's got to have these defensive responsibilities. And then they look back on his performances at Juventus, and it was like, oh no, he's got to play in 3 on the left side of the field. So
you're comparing a defensive league to a full-blown attacking league. The Italian league's one of the most defensive leagues. Even if you look at the Italian international team, they've been a defensive team as a collective. When I look at Pogba, I just think of someone that's being disrespectful. And I personally, growing up, seeing United, and Fergie used to always say it, no one is bigger than the badge. And what Pogba's done over these past few seasons, and as much as I didn't like Mourinho and I found him toxic, even how Pogba managed the Mourinho situation and got his way with that. To be honest, that was also showed me a weak point in United. United should have let Pogba go before letting Mourinho go.
I hear what you're saying. I hear that. But what do you want to see him do? That's all
I want to see him leave.
No, in terms of on the pitch, what type of player do you like? What do you want to see him do?
I want to see him keep better possession of the ball, create more, take more responsibility defensive. Like against Tottenham, he was shocking, and that's not the first time he's done a mistake like that. He's done several mistakes like that, but because he's Pogba, he won't get the same criticism as Harry Maguire. Pogba's done a lot of defensive mistakes, but he gets a lot of backing. He gets a lot of. Maguire's actually helped clean up some of Pogba's mistakes, but certain fans will not say it, would not like to admit it. But I would like to see him better defensively. I'd like to see him, have better ball possession. If Bruno misplaces a pass, straight away, Bruno's not good enough. I think that there's such a collective around Pogba. I'm one of the people who can actually admit that Pogba's not been that great. He's got the potential to be great, but he's what, 27, 28? How long are we going to be waiting?
Let me ask you something. If we buy a player like I don't know, someone like Modric or someone like Thiago Alcantara, or if we had Iniesta in his prime, would you request of those players to be more defensive?
Repeat that, sorry.
If we was to buy players like a Modric or Thiago Alcantara and Iniesta, those types of players, would you then ask of those players to be more defensive?
Thiago does do his defensive duties. We saw that last season with Bayern Munich. He does do his defensive duties. What
Thiago does is what Thiago does, because he comes from that school of La Masia where they cover space. It's not exactly like putting in tackles or anything like that. It's more of covering space, because they got that from the Johan Cruyff thing. Because Johan Cruyff believed that he didn't actually really need defenders. All he needed was 11 players on that pitch just to cover actual space, right? So I'm talking about where you're saying defensive. So when I think defensive, I'm thinking about a player like an Ndidi or a Kante or something like that. So would you ask?
No, not necessarily that. Not necessarily that, because at the end of the day, he's not that player. Do you understand? But he can be defensive. At the end of the day, he can do better than he does. He don't need to go out there and try to do a trick in and around near the area. He don't need to do that. He just needs to play it simple. Sometimes Pogba gets a bit carried away, and his attitude. His attitude stinks for me as well.
Yeah, we've added Monstar to the stream here. Monstar, you've been listening to these two gentlemen have a very good discussion about Pogba. What's your views, mate?
I mean, Pogba at his best is the best in what he does. He's the best in the world, if you ask me. But I think he wants to leave Man United. I don't know. There's something obviously going on, because not too long ago we were thinking he's going to sign a new contract. Doesn't seem like that's happening. Seems like he wants to leave. The kid you've got in the thumbnail, Eduardo Camavinga, I think will be a perfect replacement. Perfect. He's such a good midfielder, and he's only 17 years old, and his ceiling is so high. The way he's playing right now is almost on the cusp of a world-class midfielder at 17 years old. So only God knows how far he can go in it. And I think if Man United do get in Camavinga to replace him, I think, wow, that is probably going to be the best buy of that summer from any team, by any team, if you ask me.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think he's a very, very talented young man. When it comes to Paul Pogba, I'm the same as you. I think he considered staying, and then he saw the debacle in the window this summer, the start of the season. The writing's on the wall for Oli. It'll be another manager, another system torn up in front of him. And, Pogba has a lot of respect for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in terms of the way they get on, the way they've treated each other, because there have been times where maybe other managers in the past would have thrown Pogba under a bus, especially last year, when he's dancing at his brother's wedding and is he really injured, all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Ole just kept it professional and continually protect him. And that's the irony, again, in those Ole out merchants who are also, generally speaking, big Pogba fans. This is where I'm balanced on this. they literally sit there and go, I want someone that calls out. I want someone that calls out the owners and calls things out and doesn't hide things behind, doesn't keep things behind closed doors. And it's like, so you'd also be happy if he did that to one of your players you loved. I doubt it. You would say he's unprofessional and he's toxic and he's creating problems. That's my issue with it. And I think the way that Pogba and Ollie have treated each other has been relatively very, very good right the way through things. But yeah, Pogba certainly, in my opinion, wants to leave. We have a super chat here from Aaron Swan, who says, no matter what way you look at it, Pogba hasn't been good enough for Man United. He was playing world-class before United. Zero progression from him since. And would you guys agree with that? And if so, who do you hold accountable? Man United, the player, or a bit of both?
Man United, because was it at the World when he went to the World Cup in 2018? Weren't he United player then?
2018.
He wasn't phenomenal at the World Cup. He wasn't.
He was good. He
was mediocre. He was mediocre. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
I think
he wasn't
phenomenal. I think Man United haven't gotten.
Would you say Would you say he was top 5 performer in the World Cup?
Yes.
Out of all players.
Yes, he was the one providing all the assists.
I would say that Man United haven't done enough, as good enough as a team to surround him with the right players to get the best out of him. I think someone like Paul Pogba, you might have to build around. So that's where I feel like, I don't feel like, obviously them bringing in Matic's legs are gone. It's not really going to help Pogba, is it? You need to kind of get a good DM who's going to release Pogba and let Pogba do what he does. And Man United have not done that. Do you know what I mean?
I hear that. Boys, this is a brilliant debate, and I appreciate us having it. Viewers, of course, we're on member chat only right now on the live stream. So thank you all very much for your contributions on there. People watching the playback would love your thoughts and opinions. Is now the time to start the sale of Paul Pogba? And as we've just seen today, it took Man United a year to negotiate the deal for Adnan Traore. Most of these deals do take a while. Should he be put on the market now by Woodward & Co? Should Man United look to cash in? From Pogba's point of view, is the best thing for his career to leave Manchester United Football Club? Most people that have called in today think it is. Do me a big, big favor and smash the like button. But until next time, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all soon.
Peace.